Hey, this is Carrie Canary Quilts, and we're on week 16 of the Dear Jane Quilt Along that I'm doing in 2024. I'm pleased to hear that a lot of you are quilting along, and if you want to share your blocks on social media, you can use the hashtag Dear Jane QAL, and you can tag Canary Quilts on Instagram or Facebook, and I will be able to find them that way, and I will share them so everybody can see how beautiful your blocks are. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to follow along on this quilt along or any other quilt alongs I have going on this channel and all the other fun stuff that we do here. I start off with EQ8. That's what I'm using for Dear Jane, and the Dear Jane add-on for EQ8. If you're not using EQ8 and you're using the book, I have time codes in the description down below that will take you straight to the construction of the blocks. But anyway, let's get started on the EQ8, and it's going to be an easy week compared to the last 2 weeks, which the last 2 weeks construction weren't too hard. It was just modifying the blocks that took a little bit of time. Also, I'm not using any variation this week either, so it's pretty straightforward. Anyway, let's start with putting my blocks in the color chart, which I love to do. Oh, let's get my colors out. I'm using bluish, pink, gray. This is what I pulled out for my blocks this week. So I tried to color my blocks over here accordingly. So like B1 is mostly, it came out in the blue, but it's kind of pinkish, so that's why it looks pink. But it's B1 is Bachelor buttons, and there it's going to go there. We've got I2 and K12. We've got L11 and then RS3, which we need to rotate. And there we go. So let's go over to the block work table real quick, show you what we've got in each of these blocks. It's not going to be too hard. And then we can get started. All right, I'm in the block work table for Bachelor buttons, which is B1, and this is a straightforward applique. We need to print templates out, and that's all there is to it. We've got the background, the circles. We'll need to figure out how to place our circles, but I don't anticipate this being very hard at all. All right, I2. This I have actually done before. I did it in my daughter's quilt. It was the cornerstones in my daughter's quilt, set exactly like this. So this makes for a very straightforward foundation paper piecing, and that's exactly how I did it for my daughter's quilt. K12 is a square and a square and a square. This isn't going to be too hard. Makes for another fairly straightforward foundation paper piecing. Let's look at the sections. It's all one section. You can see that it starts here with A1 and you finish out the inside square, then you finish out the outside square, and then you finish it out from there. So that's going to be real easy to put together. So here we have L11. Looks like a complicated block, but when you look at the foundation paper piecing, you've got the center square and a square, and then you've got these outer rows here that are all their own section, and then the corners. So another one that's not going to be too hard. All right, we are on to RS3 Epicenter. This one isn't going to be hard. It's just all applique. So it's just going to take some time getting these placed on here. So when we go to print, we need to go to our templates. And this is what we've got over here behind me is our actual triangle that we need. We don't need these two pieces. They can be deleted. And then the rest of this we do need. This bottom piece is a different color. That's down here. And then all of these other pieces will need to be cut out and appliqued. So these two pieces are actual templates. The rest is going to have to be cut out of some fabric with fusible webbing on it. So there you go. Kind of a quiet, easy week on EQ8. And I do believe that it's going to go fairly quickly for these blocks also. But anyway, let's get started on our blocks. First, I have B1 Bachelor buttons. This is just an applique. So I've cut out my circles with the fusible webbing on the back. And I've got my background square. And it's hard to see, but I creased my fabric in the middle. And then I put my erasable marker here, and that's the center. And then I came out 3/4 of an inch and made a mark on each one of these. This one's hard to see. And right here. So I am just going to place the bottom of my circles on that 3/4 inch mark, and then I'll iron them down, and that my block will be done. All right, that's a pretty easy block to put together. And the way I came up with 3/4 of an inch was it just looked good. It still left enough here on the outside for me to sew, and I thought that's what looked like the block. So I didn't have any kind of formula I used. I just started trying out different lengths. Next block we're doing is Kaye's Courtyard, and that looks like a pretty simple block to put together, and I anticipate it will be. So I've got my cuts here, and remember my foundation paper piece cuts are available on my website, and I have the link in the description down below. So my dark squares are obviously in here, white squares are also, and then these are the triangles that are on the outside. So I'll just put together one of these real quick, and the rest will be the same. This should be pretty simple to put together. First piece is in the middle, that's going to be one of my blues. I'm going to get a white, I'm just going to stack them together. I've already drawn it out on the other side. So my first piece is in the middle, that's my blue. I'm going to lay it down so that I'm 1/4 of an inch over the line. And my seam allowance is right there. This is my other seam line, so I have plenty of room to work with here. So we will sew on the line between 1 and 2. Lock stitch at this intersection. Here's my first 2 pieces. I have trimmed my third one, 1/4 of an inch. Add my third square, which will be the white piece. Sew on the line between 1 and 3 and lock stitch at this intersection. There's my first 3 pieces. I've trimmed my 1/4 of an inch between these 3 and B4. So I'm going to take one of my triangles that I have cut here, and this is my point here, so I'm just going to try to eyeball my points. It's plenty big. Here's my seam allowances. So I have plenty of room to work with. So now we'll just sew on the line between what we just put on and the triangle. There's my first piece. So I am going to finish these 2 pieces. Note that they don't go on in the same direction as this one. And then I'm going to attach 2 of these to my corners here. So we'll come back and put our block together. Here's all my pieces done. We just have to put these 3 together first. I'm going to line up my seams and iron my seams open. And then we're going to add these on the outside. And I'll iron those seams open too. So pretty easy block. There we go. I2K's Courtyard. That's what Dear Jane's looks like, and that's what mine looks like. It's turned out pretty. Okay, we are on to L11 Caitlin's Rose. That's a pretty block. And this is what the paper piece looks like. This should be pretty simple. We've done this several times, so I'm not going to do that one. I'll do one of these edges, show you how to do this angle, at least how I do the angle. But I've got these small dark pieces for our edges here. The large dark goes in the middle. The small triangles are in here. The large triangles are in the center, and then these triangles are the corners. So let me get set up to do one of these edges. Okay, I'm going to put this piece together real quick here. I've got the seam lines drawn out. I did the corners of the seam allowances. And here's my seam lines. There's our first piece, second piece, third piece. So we're going to need we're going to need 2 eventually. Small rectangles and a small triangle. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to set this up. I'm going to put about 1/4 of an inch over my point right there. And I'm going to clip it in place. Do it down here because that's the long way. Then I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to cut my 1/4 inch before I put my pieces together. All right, so I have that already cut, so now I can take my triangle. It's going to be oriented like that, so I'm just going to flip it over, line it up so that I have about 1/4 inch over my next seam line, and here's my seam allowance, so I'm doing good there. So we're going to sew on the line between D1 and D2. All right, there's my second piece. I've gone ahead and trimmed my 1/4 inch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this piece to fit. So I'm going to lay it over top so I can't see any of my pencil lines. I can feel the edge. I'm going to get a pen that will erase. I can feel the edge and I'm going to mark it. All right. So that's my mark. Then I'm going to come out here and mark it again. And that's going to be where I cut it. So I'm going to cut it on my second mark here. And that's how I'm now going to line it up when I flip it over. Now we can sew on the line between D2 and D3. There we go. There's that first piece put together, and that's how I will start with a weird angle, and that's how I work with a strange angle on any other pieces. So I'm going to get these finished up and we'll put our block together. Another easy one. All right, here's my pieces put together, pretty straightforward. Laid them out. We want our, well, we have to because that's the way it's shaped. I was going to say we want our white next to this, our light color next to the center, but that's the only way it's going to fit. So we want to add these, and it looks like these edge notches here will line up with this edge. So I'm going to put on 2 opposite sides. I'm going to iron it open. Then I'm going to put on the other 2 opposite sides and iron those open and come back and put the corners on. Here's the center section put together. I ironed the seams open. I did one corner to see how it fits, and I have notches here on both my, or on my corner. And so that first side here, right here, lines up with each edge of this center section. So I'm just going to sew these on, and I've been ironing towards the corner. It seems to relieve the seams a little bit if I iron it that way. Here we go. There's Dear Jane's Caitlin Rose L11, and here's my Caitlin Rose L11. That was a fun block to put together. Again, not a hard one. I like that. Next up is K12, Doris's Dilemma. I didn't realize I had actually done it out of order, but I guess it doesn't matter. This is all one section, which is going to make it pretty easy to put together. So we're going to start in the middle here, A1, A2, and then we're going to work around here, bring over to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The pieces I've got are, this strip goes in the center. These white triangles are obviously in here. These are these 2 dark triangles in the middle, and then these are the large triangles on the outside. So I'm going to get this drawn out and I'll get it started. I've drawn it out on the back here. This is going to be blue, blue, white. We're going to start with a blue triangle that will be oriented like that. Lay it 1/4 inch over the second. And then this is going to be plenty long, so I'm just going to lay that over top. And we will now sew between 1 and 2 and lock stitch at your ends here. There's my first 2 pieces. I actually went ahead and trimmed my second piece just because I want this to be the third piece, but it's not. So then I came back over here, and this is the third piece right here, and I trimmed my 1/4 inch. And we need a white triangle to go here. Line it up. And sew on the line between 1 and 3. 1, 2, and 3. There's my white triangle put on. Our 4th piece is another white triangle. I've gone ahead and trimmed it. And I'm going to put it on. So that's how we're just going to kind of work around this block. Just go to the next, like the next one will be this big corner here, and then 6 is back over here. So just keep following your numbers around, grab your pieces, and your block will be done. So far, we've had it pretty easy this week. What a cool looking block. I really like that block. That's Dear Jane's, and this is mine. This is Doris's Dilemma. Okay, we're on to RS3 Epicenter. There's a lot of pieces here, but it should not be difficult at all. It is almost all applique, except for the background triangle and this bottom piece right here, which I've already cut out these pieces based on the template. So they're going to go together like that. No, yeah, like that. And then I've got all my applique pieces here transferred over to my fusible webbing. I've got them on my fabric. So all I need to do now is cut them out. And once I get these sewn, we can start applying them. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew these two together. I'm going to iron this open. I'm going to get these cut out, and then we'll come back and lay down all our applique pieces. This is the block we're going for. That's what hers look like. Okay, I've got this put together. Iron that open. I've got my pieces cut out. So the petals are pretty obvious. I didn't mark those, but these 3 pieces go along the bottom here, and I do have them marked with K, L, and M. That's what my templates say. Then these 4 pieces are the E pieces that are inside. And then these 3 F pieces, which I have marked, are the ones that are up here. So I think I'm going to work from the bottom up and see how that goes. I think K, L, and M will be the easiest. And I traced all of my templates on the solid sew line. So L is over here and the long edge goes. So I want to be, at this point, I want to be about 1/4 of an inch in from the edge of my block. I'm just going to lay them down because I can move them. And then this is my K, which goes on the other side. Let's see, I did that wrong. The long side needs to go here. And I don't feel like that's... Okay, so I think maybe what I'll do is fold this in half, put this down first, and then work out. I feel like these angles are different. Let me get it figured out. So I actually went back and redrew my L. I don't know what happened. Maybe when I was pulling it off, it stretched it, but the piece I had was not the same shape as my L here. So I did it again on some fusible. And let's see that we can make this work. So let's line it up point to point. So I had a little bit more than 1/4 inch here. I think I'm going to move this over. That's 1/4 of an inch. That could go over a little more. And then I'm going to just kind of center this in the middle. All right, that's good enough for me. I can work with that. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to lay down our E pieces, which are these smaller ones. We need to determine how these are going to get set. They're going to be offset from this a little bit, so let's put that one there. I'm just going to kind of lay it out right now. Their points will touch. That's how those are going to go. And then these are going to basically kind of overlap them from point to point. Like that. So I think we just need to take care on how we get these laid out. That looks like a small E compared to the rest of those. It's correct. It just looks different. All right, I have determined I'm coming 3 inches up from the bottom. So I made these marks at 3 inches up, and that's where I want these points to be at on each side of this. So what I think I'm going to do is get these 2 points laid out and then use this to line up my next point, is how I think I'm going to do it. So let me give that a shot and I'll let you know if that worked for me. What I did was I laid this down and then I put my point here and then I lined it all up. I know I have the paper off. I lined it all up and then I marked up here. Let's do it this way, where my point's supposed to be. And that is erasable. So that's how I did it. So that's how it's going to go on and it should fit. And I think I'll do the same thing down here with this one. Turn this over, line this up. Make sure my points line up. And then I'm going to mark it right there. So now I know where to put, the point of this one. So these should fit around the edges, point to point. There we go. I think mine's more oval than hers. Hers is more round. But you know what? I can live with it. So all these F pieces are going to go up here. I am just going to kind of eyeball with this mark I made. And I've got 1/4 of an inch there. And then these line up point to point here. And I'm just guessing on where to put these at this point. I just want to make sure I have 1/4 of an inch over here, and I do, so. There we go. Well, what do you think? Let me know how yours turned out. Let me know if you got more of a circle or an oval. It just makes it hard when you're tracing and then you're cutting and then the fabric stretches a little bit to really get it to work out exactly, in my opinion. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going to get it ironed down and we'll be done. There we go. Got it ironed down. That's my RS3 Epicenter. Again, let me know how it went for you if you did anything different. If you put some more math into it than I did. All right, we finished our blocks for the week. Got them right here. Let me know what you think of all your blocks and how they went for you. I thought this week was pretty easy. It was pretty fun. I'm having a lot of fun doing this quilt. And sometimes it's more difficult, but we get weeks like this where it's a little bit easier. So hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to follow along, if you want to do the quilt along with us, if you want to learn a little bit about EQ8 and the Dear Jane add-on in EQ8. And let's start populating my photo quilt. Let me know if you're doing a photo quilt in yours also. So let's go. B1, Bachelor buttons. K2, Caitlin's Courtyard. K2, right there. K12, Doris's Dilemma. And L11, Caitlin's Rose. And then RS3, Epicenter. Look at that. It's looking so pretty. It's going to be interesting to see how the quilt actually looks compared to this picture, because all the pictures of these blocks are taken at different times and makes it look a little bit different colors. But yeah, this is really fun. I appreciate you all for following along. Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.